Good evening, everybody. System Chuck here with what should be the 31st episode of our first run through House of Light, playing as the archaeologist. Our first run, of House of Light on YouTube. And one thing I did notice here, there's a bit of a change in terms of the Lighthouse Institute between. So this has been true for a while, but I'm actually noticing in the version that I am playing on Twitch, there's actually a different setup for the Lighthouse Institute, which may have some consequences in terms of specific decisions that I made. But in any case, this one's probably going to be the closest to a quote-unquote canonical playthrough that I've been doing on of the expansion, just simply because I imagine I've sort of inherited some old setups from the original one. Anyways, our focus will be on the current playthrough, the one that we're doing right now. And if I recall correctly, we were setting up a salon, so yes. Serena Blackwood is on her way. I'm restoring Spring. I think the worry here is that I'm not going to be able to do everything with the lessons by the end of the day. But you know what? We'll work with what we've been given. The postmistress examines the letter and deems it sufficient. It'll go with the next post, she assures me. So we'll send an invitation to Corso. Stamp envelope send. And I've carried a memory like a flambeau safe through the mazes of night. This will complete once dawn has come. And then I heard a room open. That would be the church tower. The bells in this tower rang every Sunday, even in Solomon Husher's time, until Thirza Blake finally cancelled services so she could save money by sacking the priest. This brought a deputation of angry locals from Brankrug village, where there was a fearful superstition that when the bells of Brankrug fell silent, the bells of Ys would be heard. So you got a few things in this room here. We've got the mop and bucket, galvanized steel, enriched with the stains of a dozen years of methodical mopping. 3 solar period books, uncatalogued of course, and then the veiled goddess Lapsang Suchong, named for an enigmatic minor deity whose charge is the healing of burns. So 2 forge, 1 sky. We also have the bell tower chair, sturdy, undistinguished, and like so much else in the house, the last of its kind. So in terms of rooms that this unlocks, we have the stopped clock, so forge, sky, and winter. We have the glaring room, which would be heart, lantern, and winter, and then the echoing chamber, which technically we've had access to all along, lantern, moon, and winter. The shrouded stair is kind of the most likely candidate, just given Denzel, but we're not going to mess with any of that today. Okay. So, yes, the plan here will be invite the guests. We were going to host this in the Physic Garden. I may want to make sure that I do... Well, I do want to do an afternoon one, but ideally I will make sure that the salon's actually finished before the season is done so that I can follow up with another right after. I'm just trying to think if there's anything clever I can do while I wait. I may do another round of work at the Sweet Bones. Or actually, hang on. I may still need to make something for the... let's just make sure of that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, okay. That's right. We're going to do potatoes. Unwrap, unbox, unleash. Yes, okay. I'm remembering now. So here's the canned ham. Another dripping. This was an unintentional dripping, but we'll make do. Okay, so if memory serves, I was going to make the magnificent roast potatoes. Just because I'm going to be short on time. So we've got roast potatoes, orange jumble, beef, poached mackerel, and then yes. So what I'll do here, this of course will take a minute, and then we'll need a minute to restore the element of the soul. Roast potatoes, add the dripping. Roast potatoes magnificently, a dish with edge, forge, grail, and heart. All right, so the guests are on their way. That's going to take a minute. I'm restoring my, the metal to, that brought Denzel in. Now, normally I would like to try and use one of the elements of the soul to earn a bit of money and then do the restoration. But I think if I do that, that leaves me with 2 minutes to restore both the Arab and the and then whatever I use to earn the money. So now there's the possibility of health, because I don't think I've ever seen health be used during a salon, but I'd rather not sort of try my luck if I can avoid it. Okay, did Strathcoin receive my invitation? Looks like he did. We'll do a recap of the guests and the dishes when we're just about to start the picnic. Sorry, I tried a sip of tea. It's quite hot, so I wanted to make sure that it was properly sitting on the coaster before I left. Okay, better now. Did Olympi receive my invitation? I guess we'll move them all down here. This video, by the way, is the first one I'm recording after the patch, which has included a number of improvements for the just for the rendering. There's actually a really interesting post that Weather Factory put up about some of the specifics that they were running into, which I'll spare you here. I think I talked about them previously. Now, I think when the full house is opened, I'm still not able to have sort of the top of the frame rates. But I have noticed in general that it does seem to have it's a little bit more responsive, so I'm feeling good about that. I don't know whether or not that'll translate in the videos though, because my monitor certainly is a faster rate than the videos themselves. Okay, Serena Blackwood, and then Corso in 5 minutes. Okay, so we can fit all of these. So the fastest thing I can, the fastest way for me to restore the Arab in this case is to use the sweet bone. So tuppence will buy me a hearty meal and a quiet place where I can rest and gather my thoughts. It is spring, and the landlady has served me a slice of her stargazy pie, with the pilchard heads poking cheekily through the hot crust. Alright, Corso did receive my invitation, so we'll take the minute here, and here are the guests for today. Denzel. Denzel will attend the next salon in his cleanest clothes. Mr. Fraser Strathcoin. Philanthropist, collector, former librarian. A complicated man, but not a cruel one. Madame Olympe Bichet. Essayist, illustrator, critic, editor of the Carisham Review. Dr. Serena Blackwood, one-time librarian of Hush House, one-time librarian of the Invisible Serapeum in Alexandria, and currently... what exactly? Serena is close-mouthed, but I know that she has worked with the St. Ronwin Trust. And Signor Corso Reverte, manuscript hunter, legacy scavenger, mercenary. Many would question his ethics, few would deny his acuteness. Okay, so, incidentally, Fraser Strathcoin starts off as inspired, so I think... I don't think you can just individually add people. I think you go, and then I guess I would use my journal here. Yeah, you need to add everybody. Or actually, I think that would be covered by the square brackets anyway. Help visitors to pursue their goals and develop their agendas. When you've found 6 suitable candidates inspired by agendas, you can suggest they found an organization that's a worthy successor to the Curia of the Isle. If you cannot find a suitable secretary persistent, Rowena will continue to serve in that role even as she continues to wane. Okay, so the individuals that we're bringing in. We've covered that. We are also in midday, so as soon as I get the Arab back, I'll maybe just take a minute here to make sure that everything is ready to go. Yep. I could probably get away with starting it right now, but actually, yeah, let's give it a shot. So for today's salon, we will do roast potatoes. You really need rosemary for roast potatoes, but fortunately the kitchen garden at Hush House has never been short of rosemary. Magnificent roast potatoes, it's the dripping that elevates it. Roast potatoes are a feast for the senses, but the dripping deepens the flavor profile, makes the experience continue through the machinery of the mouth to become a kind of journey. Poached mackerel. We do not poach fish in Brandkrug without recalling the turbot crisis of 1786, when Dr. Westcott caught a prodigious turbot and required the kitchen poach it for him without division, but no vessel of sufficient size could be found to poach it entire. At last they resorted to alchemical assistance. Mackerel, fortunately, requires no alchemy for its poaching. Roast beef. Our fathers of old were robust, stout, and strong, and kept open house with good cheer all day long, which made their plump tenants rejoice in this song. Oh, the roast beef of old England and old English roast beef. Henry Fielding, The Grub Street Opera. Very catchy tune when you listen to it. Probably the catchiest old, I don't know, diss track of Europe that I've heard. Last month at least. An orange jumbo. They should be the size of teacup rims and should curl their crisp edges faintly pink as the underneath of a young mushroom. Lady Jekyll, kitchen essays. And then for drinks, we've got TRN Limited Drinking Cocoa, TRN Spices and Savors Department. Market this as the secret sacrament of the last Inca. Evening Isles Coffee, coffee from beyond the Sunset Sea. And 3 cups of Don Lion coffee, coffee from beyond the Great Deserts. My guests settle down to a picnic. Keep an eye on the salon as it progresses. You will need to add a soul card to encourage the conversation to flow. Different guests will need different soul cards. The more guests, the longer the salon will last. Alright, so this one again, I'm not expecting miracles, but let's see if we can do... we'll do as well as we can with what I have. This may also be a time that I start committing some skills to the Tree of Wisdoms. Better now. Raise a complex question. Add a whist card. All right, so right out the gate. Now, I had a list. I'm going to actually just tab out to get it because it'll be a little bit easier for me to narrow this down. So whist would come from ithistry and hushery. Now, ithistry is a tough one because I don't really want to commit anything to that until level 5. And the reason for this would be when I go up Horamachistry, right, that'll take me to Horamachistry 5. And then we cross over to ithistry. So really in terms of whist, I have hushery. But if I recall correctly, hushery was also blocked off. So in that case, I'm really... Yeah, that one's actually also blocked off to 5 as well. And again, when I just take a look at how that works, that's because I want Nyctodromy. Now, I would normally say in this case, okay, well, you know, now I know better. Can I work my way up to Nyctodromy and get the hushery? Or alternatively, you know, can I work my way up Horamachistry? And of course, the challenge there is that right now I've been building everything up to level 2. And so as a consequence, even if I wanted to move, let's say I opened up the way through Nyctodromy, and I think in the case of Nyctodromy, I'd actually move up Skolakosophy and then down and then over. But all that being said, because I've focused so much on getting these initial ones leveled, right, that I've been working on getting the 1s up to 2s rather than sort of the 3s up to 5s. There's no credible way that even if I could move all the way up through Horamachistry and such, that I could get to the Ithistry. So all that being said, I'll maybe just double check. I don't even know if there's an easy way for me to look at that. But yeah, I'll go so far as to say that as far as I can tell, Whist is an Ithistry and Hushery element of the soul, and we're not going to be getting that right now. So not an auspicious start to the Salon, but we don't always get to choose. Now, I am intrigued by the fact that we didn't get an extra time. I'm wondering if that's because we didn't go later on. All right, ask about dreams. Add a Fet card. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing as before. So Fet I see as Horamachistry and Nyctodromy. Now this one is this one is quite unfortunate. So for Horamachistry, the challenge here is that I can't get started without Deep Mandaic, unless I think I can do something with Birdsong. I believe I was going to actually fill out a little bit of Birdsong. So maybe, we'll see. What I'll want to do is I'll want to double check that I can move through. And then in the case of Nyctodromy, again, the earliest that I'll start on that one would be 4. So let's just experiment for a minute here. Let's say if I were to go down the path of Birdsong, what do I have available? And am I willing to sort of pay to get the access that I need for Horamachistry? So we'd do something like Rhyme and Remembrance. For number, I would need something for 3, and I don't have that many 3s, although I think, if I recall correctly, I was also... No, wait, Edicts Inviolable was Preservation. So, yeah, out of Edicts Martial, Desires and Dissolutions, and Edicts Inviolable, none of those are on the list. So this is already dead on arrival. Okay. We made our choices. We will stick with them. Inject a little gaiety. Add a core card. Serena and Olympi compare their experiences of King Crucible. Serena has summoned him on several occasions. Olympi has interviewed him, to Serena's surprise. Even Crucible is increasingly inclined, it seems, to walk in human shape. Invite a challenge. Add a metal card. Okay, so we're sort of picking up at the end here. So I'll also note that we got transformations and liberations here, so I may start, once we sort of see the writing on the wall for the Salon, we might start folding in a few of the, well, yeah, I don't know, we'll see where it goes. I want to start reading some books if I can. Corso has an unusual book of suns for sale, collated by a mysterious pilgrim of Antean heritage. Fraser is interested, but wants to speak to its collator. Corso shakes his head. My clients pay for my discretion. Sorry, I butchered the reading of that. Let's try that again. Corso has an unusual book of suns for sale, collated by a mysterious pilgrim of Antean heritage. Fraser is interested, but wants to speak to its collator. Corso shakes his head. My clients pay for my discretion. Lesson pentiments and precursors. So we have a couple here that would be relevant. I could bring them up to level 3 if I wanted. Alternatively, we can try and elevate some of the lower level ones. Conversation ebbs and flows. Raise a complex question, add a whist card, so we already said why whist won't work. My guests leave content. For a more successful salon, add more guests. Ensure you have the right soul cards, or both. Okay, so two lessons isn't too terrible. I thought there might have been another one at the end. One of the drawbacks about this approach to the salons is that I do run into the problem where I'm not able to, like, it's exciting to do the salon. It's exciting to sort of have the interactions with all of the guests. But if I don't deliver the elements of the soul, we don't actually get the experiences with the guests. But the good news is that with all of the elements of the soul that I have, and the fact that we only have sort of 2 lessons to work with, I'm going to find it relatively easy to level this stuff up by the end of the day. If you can just give me a second here, I'm going to have another sip of tea and then take a look at my list. Okay. So, transformations. If I recall correctly, transformations and liberations was one I was willing to put a bit higher. So there is something of an argument that if I wanted, I should level this one up more. Now, the drawback is we have already moved up on bells and braziers. So of all of the skills that I could level up, this is one of the ones that gives me a bit less. Although the moth is nice. And then pentiments and precursors. Similar story as far as the Grail is concerned. So I was... excuse me. What was it? For... Desires and Dissolutions. I'm trying to remember what branch I was going to put that down. I'm really curious why I made that a 3. I think I may just play it safe and oh, I think I know why. Because I was potentially going to put Spices and Savors in 2 and then Desires and Dissolutions in 3, and then I didn't. Okay. But yeah, I think what I'm going to do is I'll see which of these I can level up to 2 before I go any further. Alright, so we got a satisfaction for our trouble. So we've got a decent little handful of memories to work with. A quiet salon. You held a quiet salon. Perhaps there wasn't that very many guests, or they didn't have much to say. This is a marker to remind you that you can't hold another salon until next season. Lesson pentiments and precursors. Lessons, transformations, and liberations. There'll be a little bit of awkwardness in terms of getting this all in before the end of the day. Let's see how I can make this work. Okay, so for Grail, basically Leaves and Thorns is the only one that I can really elevate there. But then for Scale, I imagine there's a few. So yeah, Coil and Chasm, Horns and Ivories, Wolf Stories, Stone Stories, and Furs and Feathers. And then for Transformations and Liberations, we've got Door and Wall, and... oh, that's interesting. So we don't have a whole lot of moth kicking around. Okay, so we'll raise up Door and Wall then. which does make it a little awkward in terms of generating memories, because I don't think any of these have forge or knock. I could use the occult scrap, I suppose, but I'll read something with salt to kick us off. And I'll leave the shaft aside so that I can elevate door and wall. In the cycle, I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. So as far as the pentiments and precursors go, Leaves and Thorns is an option, and we can use the Satisfaction to raise that. That actually puts it very high on my list. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna make the call there. Right, there's always more to learn. Improve the skill to level 2. So for the remaining day, I don't think there's any value in trying to read the books. That's potentially just going to set me up with lessons that I may regret getting the next day. I could try and catalog some books. I think I'm going to do some beachcombing. Gather in spring. What is the sea seeded today? And then we can catalog one of the baronial period books. This book was probably written around the time of Hush House's Curia period, roughly the 1700s to 1800s. If I examine it, I can learn more about what knowledge it might contain. So we've got health and shapt for the rest of the day. These are options. I mean, if I want, I can of course use them to catalog more books. The solar has the higher risk of being being cursed, or otherwise giving me an affliction. I think I'll use the shaft to earn a bit more money. There's not much work on offer in Brandkrug, but I can find 6 pence worth of odd jobs. This is just kind of paying for the postage as well as the elements of the soul that I restored today. And then for health, I have a couple of options. I can try and do some gardening. I could try and pick some flowers. I am curious how much water okay, we've got more than enough water, so we don't have the pears. Not time for sea hollies. We could get moth orchid. Not a lot of spring plants. Okay, cat's claw. Let's pick up some cat's claw. Gather in spring. Gather cat's claw carefully. Its mischievous thorns find ways through the thickest gloves. Okay, so as the description gave, a quiet picnic, not an unpleasant one. We've made a little bit of a dent in terms of some of the sort of the floor that I want to raise. I will probably need to make some more decisive choices in terms of how I move the different texts sort of up or down. We've got a pale lady and a prince of wines. So, got a theme emerging in terms of the books that I'm getting. The skill is now level 2. Its power aspects have also increased. Leaves and thorns. There is no scent without sorrow. And we'll just wait till the book is finished reading. But yeah, knowing some of the limitations of the Tree of Wisdoms that I'm working with, Languages are sort of the biggest thing that can get the ball rolling. But what I might do for the summer salon, I'd still like to have 5 invitations if I can. Actually, another thing that would have been smart for me to do with the Tryst would have been to make another ink. Because it would be nice to get the... it'd be nice to get the salon out of the way earlier. To a Pale Lady, a collection of Franklin Bancroft's letters to Ava de Wolf. There's a substantial body of erotic pleading and half-finished poetry, but also learned discussions on matters mythical and marine, as well as notes towards a comic opera on which Franklin and Ava were apparently collaborating. Do not return, O my light, to the sea. None of us can be what we were. That is history's curse. None of us can know what we may be. That is history's gift. Your mothers, and the mothers of your mothers, are caught in eternity's jaws like a rope hem in a trap. It is the pearl that shines, but the tide that returns. All right, so we will take door and wall. There's always more to learn. As I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. But yeah, so what I might do sort of before I do the next salon, and I might actually spend some time properly planning out the Tree of Wisdoms as opposed to sort of having a broad stroke that I'm working with, but still sort of like it's somewhat improvisational because I don't have any guarantees on what books I'm going to be reading, but I generally have an idea in terms of what buckets each of the different skills are going to go into. So it might not be a bad idea for me to sort of actually sit down and work out a bit of a plan, for the simple reason that if I don't get the languages that I need, I may find myself in a situation where I go quite far into the game without a, whist, for instance. And whist is very helpful, particularly for some of the rooms that I'm trying to open up. And again, there is some fun in terms of doing those kinds of challenges. I do actually enjoy forcing myself to think a little bit differently about the game. But on the other hand, if I do that too far, that's how I wind up with a 100 or 200 episode playthrough. And as enjoyable as that is, I know some people have been quite eager to see me getting back to Cultist Simulator. And also, I don't want to really milk it, especially if I'm not doing a lot of things that are engaged with the like the new content inside of the DLC. So we'll see. I have a couple of options open to me, but again, I also think that the course of the different salons and such will probably give me what I need in terms of language, or not the salons, but the different visitors will help me get the languages that I need. Door and wall. The lock seeks its key, the wall seeks its door, and we who would pass learn at last that they are not our servants. Willem Harries. And I think I'm going to leave it here. I actually have some laundry that I need to take care of, but it does give me a nice excuse to get some episodes recorded while I am working on that. But overall plan, so we've finished the salon. It does sort of mean that we're going to reset and go on the treadmill again, but we're already halfway in terms of the letters, assuming that I want to invite Denzil again. Depending on, one, the books that I get, and number two, I'm assuming we're not going to have Numa, but you never know. We're probably going to be a little more thoughtful in terms of what books I read. So for instance, A Pale Lady and a Prince of Wines has sea stories. I might want to decide whether or not sea stories is something I want to level up. Alternatively, if it is something that I want to level up, whether or not sea stories is something I want to level up, or if I want to try and take advantage of the Moon and Grail. So for instance, Sickle and Eclipse. Sickle and Eclipse is particularly interesting because it's effective against corruption. And so another thing that I want to think about would be trying to level up the different affliction removal abilities. This one, I don't think... Oh no, it is effective against corruption, so this is actually a decent candidate to get rid of Winkwell. But again, all of that will be a decision for the future. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you on Wednesday's episode. Until then, take care.